Hey, welcome into our second show of the day, the After the Show show. I know. We all know what it actually translates down to if you want to use it as an acronym. We'll leave that to you. I'm Steve West. That's Matt Nicholson. Producer John Myers in the background. What? Appreciate you checking us out.
As coined by one John Myers.
Hold up.
Did you just now get that, Matt?
No, I've had it.
It's just the first time we've actually referenced it here on the show. I guess I'll turn that down. There we go. But anyway, welcome into it. We've been looking at a couple of things. First of all, they're in practice over there at Barber Motorsports Park. A couple of drivers, let's just say, not having a good practice session.
Quite a few, actually. If you're looking down, out of the 26 cars that are entered, did anybody have Simon Pagenaud in P25?
No.
And I know John Myers had Jimmy Johnson in P23.
Well, sure he did. Actually, he probably had him further back than that.
Did anyone have Helio Castroneves in P21?
I would never have guessed that.
What about Alexander Rossi in P20?
No, but when you did say that he looped his car around and cracked it up,
yeah,
I figured it was probably not going to be a good lap.
What about Will Power in 16th?
No.
What about Joseph Newgarden in 11th?
It's a little low, but something I feel like he can overcome.
Giving up your top 10 in reverse order. You got Jack Harvey sitting in 10th.
I would not have predicted that.
Did anybody have Callum Elott sitting in P9?
Nowhere near it.
Scott Dixon in 8th.
A little low, but I can see it.
Marcus Ericsson in 7th.
So far in the year, that's about right, I think.
Alex Palou in 6th.
A little lower than what I would have thought, considering how he qualified, and he qualified in second. So.
Romain Grosjean, P5.
That's about right.
Scott McLaughlin, P4.
About right.
Colton Herta, P3.
Actually surprised he's not leading.
Pato O'Ward, P2.
Okay, not terribly surprising.
And come sitting in first in the second practice session of the morning, a second practice session for the weekend that is of this morning, excuse me, from the Fighting Ed Carpenters of Indiana, you have Rinus VeeKay.
That's a bit of a surprise right there, because I didn't see him coming out of nowhere for that. So, yep. Good job, Rinus. So we go from there, and then we look at what's going on up in Dover and what's going on with the Cup Series.
Yeah. I have a problem.
Do you?
A big problem.
I'm not surprised. Tell us.
No comment.
Yeah.
Not that kind of a problem.
Not that kind of a problem.
It's a good thing this is a YouTube-only show.
There was several problems that were exposed last weekend at Talladega that we have all addressed, but an even bigger problem here.
Okay.
And yes, Grady Sapp, you still owe me off my bet because I called that the Cup cars last weekend would qualify slower than Xfinity, and that they did.
Oh, yeah. But wait, it gets worse. It's a great song, by the way.
Great song indeed. Yesterday, the ARCA Menards Series East Division competed at Dover Motor Speedway.
Yes.
Not Dover International, Dover Motor Speedway.
Right.
All right. Taylor Gray out of David Gilliland Racing, DGR Crosley, however you want to call it.
Yeah.
They unveiled the first revamped Gen 6 Cup car that is now legal for ARCA usage.
Yeah. And remember, ARCA, for the most part, runs old Cup cars.
With a Mustang body.
No more Ford Fusions.
Right now, at elapsed time in practice of 47 minutes and 23 seconds, you have Austin Cindric setting in the lead at a 157.846.
That's his fast lap, and that leads the entire field. Okay.
Yep.
ARCA?
Taylor Gray took the pole at Dover at 160.915.
So about a 4 mile per hour difference.
See the problem here?
4 mile per hour difference. Slower than the ARCA feeder series. Well, during the show today, we praised the Gen 7 car for a couple of things. Number one, it's a tank. It takes a lot of abuse and can keep on ticking, number one, and it's quite versatile. Again, if you missed the show, you can go back and check it out, but we'll give you this spoiler. The car that Ross Chastain won with and put into victory lane at Talladega Superspeedway is the exact same car that he won with at Circuit of the Americas. That's that road course in Austin, Texas. 20-turn, 3+ mile road course, 2.66 mile high-banked tri-oval. You can't get much more different than those two kinds of tracks, and yet the exact same car with just a rewrap on the sponsorship won both. That's the cool thing about this Gen 7 car. Yes, it's highly adaptable. The bad thing, because there's always a bad to go with the good, they've lost a lot of speed.
A substantial amount of speed.
I don't know where to fix that either, because you got to remember they're dealing with two packages, for lack of a better term, that both drop the horsepower from what we've been used to out of the Gen 6 and previous generations of these stock cars.
I'm looking up a stat here.
Okay.
It's a stat of where, and I know this one exists, I just got to go find it. Of the slowest qualifying speeds ever at Talladega. I can't find it officially right here. I'm still looking. I know back in, I think it was 2011.
Okay.
It was actually, it was 2011 because Jeff Gordon took the pole that race. 179 miles an hour. Chris Bell took the pole at a 180.6.
Yeah. 2011, that was
tandem
Car of
draft.
Tomorrow?
COT tandem draft era.
Yeah, the big brick of a car with a big wing in the back.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that was the second slowest single car qualifying speed ever for Cup at Talladega.
Ouch.
Pretty sure.
Not good.
That's not supposed to happen.
Nope. It's
not there.
It's not. I agree.
Because the sad part about it is, and I've actually heard this question be raised before, the iconic brand of that is Talladega, the one phrase that they're known by, world's fastest speedway.
Mm-hmm. And they could be if you took all the restrictions off of it.
And this era of the thing that is known as garbage social media now, I wonder how long it is before the question gets raised, can they legitimately hold that title now?
Theoretically, yes. Again,
theoretically, yes.
Theoretically,
yes.
Because if you took all the restrictions off of it, absolutely. Because Rusty Wallace proved what you could do when he just said, hey, take the restrictor plate off, and I'm going to go run a couple of laps. And that was back during the COT days, if I remember correctly.
It was before.
Was it just before?
2006.
Okay. And he ran what, 225, 230?
I think it was 226, 227.
Okay. That's IndyCar qualifying territory at the Indy 500.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're talking about a effectively big brick. Yeah. So theoretically, Talladega absolutely could be. But NASCAR has put, and I get you have the safety concerns, but NASCAR has put so many restrictions. You have what was the restrictor plate, now the tapered spacer. And then on top of that, you put this aero package with a dropped horsepower number that they run at Daytona and Talladega and now Atlanta. And yeah, you're choking off this car. So what theoretically could be the fastest track in NASCAR, unfortunately isn't.
And it's not their fault.
No, it's not Talladega's fault.
It's actually 2000. He done it in 2004. He had 228.
Oh, okay.
228.
228. Okay.
Because I remember vividly back when, and everybody knows where it's at, the old gas station is right there near the track.
Sure.
I'd stop to get a drink. Happened to be right when that test was going on. The sound was beautiful. And the only thing I could think was, good Lord, what is going on out there?
Mm-hmm.
That's the loudest scream I've ever heard in my life.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine those cars were pushing, what, 750, 800 horse?
At least.
Yeah. And then you take the restrictor plate off, which, remember, the restrictor plate came in the late 1980s. So by that point in time, we'd had a quarter of a century, give or take, of experience with those. And over the course of time, and we've seen this, and this is what I'm hoping for, this is what I'm kind of waiting on, I guess, in the grand scheme of things when it comes to this new generation, this Gen 7 stock car. We've seen where teams get new regulations and they have to get their hands on it first, and they have to get their minds wrapped around it. And as they do, they start to realize, hey, this is what we can do with the car, this is what we can't do with the car, and suddenly the power and the speed kind of starts coming back up. I'm waiting to see if that's going to happen. And I'm not necessarily certain that's going to happen this year. I'd like to see some improvement this year, and I think some improvement will happen. But I think this year to next year, as they've got a full season under their belts, to be able to kind of figure it out and say, hey, now we've got a notebook on these cars. And it's suddenly they are able to work on it in the off season. They may come back to Daytona and we may see higher speeds. I hope that does happen, because we've seen in drafting purposes, drafting situations, in practice leading up to qualifying, we've seen speeds recently as high as 204 miles per hour. I think the fastest time that I saw, even in a group, was about 193 last weekend.
Yeah, it was like 193.3, 193.4, or something like that.
Yeah, somewhere in the
It wasn't
193s.
high.
No, not at all, especially not in comparison to what we have seen. But I think given the time, you're talking about people that's their job. Their job is to get speed out of these cars. Their job is to make these cars the fastest they possibly can. They're going to figure workarounds somewhere down the line. I know NASCAR's trying to keep the lid down tight on these cars, but again, these are people that live by the motto, you don't read the rule book for what is in there, you read the rule book for what isn't in there. They're going to find workarounds, they're going to find these gray areas, and NASCAR is either going to say, nope, we're not going to let you do that, or yes, we will. And as they figure out these little things that do work and that are allowed, those cars will get incrementally faster. But the fact that they're slower not only than Xfinity cars, not only than Camping World Truck Series cars, but slower than ARCA cars, we're going down the wrong road. We're going down the wrong road. There's a fine line between keeping these drivers safe and putting on a really, really good show.
I get the safety aspect of it. I totally get it.
But you even mentioned this. These cars are built like tanks.
We heard, we talked about it the last couple of weeks about Zach Brown making the comment of how F1 cars are getting too wide.
Mm-hmm.
These Cup cars are wide.
Oh, yeah.
Very wide. Okay. Now, I get the safety aspect of it.
Sure.
You do not. Because it don't matter how many times you put a helmet on and you strap into any kind of a car, whether it's from a 4-cylinder Hornet all the way up to a truck, to a Cup car, to a F1 car, or even a Formula E car that you could basically hear yourself talk over while you're racing. If you put a helmet on and pulled a 5-point harness over your shoulders, you're in a fraternity.
Sure.
No matter how many times you do it, for one time in your life, or you do it for 40 years, you're in a fraternity. Nobody wants to see anybody perish in an accident.
No.
Period.
We don't want to go back to the days of when we lost Adam Petty and Kenny Irwin and Dale Earnhardt and those other drivers at that time.
At New Hampshire, of all places.
Yeah, exactly.
But you've got to understand, you're taking an inherent risk.
Sure.
Every time you reach over, put that battery switch on, and you hit that starter switch, you're taking a risk.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what. Case in point, Scott Melton in the ARCA race last week. I'm still kind of puzzled as to how his spotter didn't slow him down, and he came in pile driving on Eric Caudill.
Ouch.
Look what he's dealing with now.
Yeah.
A compound fracture in not one, not two, but 3 places in his right leg. Now it's basically at his respective age, His career is could be essentially over.
Could be.
I said could be. Not is, could be. Sad thing to think. But guess what? He took that inherent risk.
Yep. He knew those things were a possibility.
You got to draw that fine line in between safety and speed. Now, yes, some tracks, take a little bit of speed out of it and you get a much better race. I'm not going to dispute that.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get a better race. But that place right down I-20,
Yeah.
cut them loose.
Yeah. When you tout them as the biggest, baddest, fastest track in the world, not just in NASCAR, but in the world, you better be able to back it up.
Now, one thing,
And this isn't a Talladega problem. This is a NASCAR problem.
the one thing I'm going to give immense credit on dealing with this Gen 7 car. When I can stand in the infield, and with the old Gen 6, Gen 5, Gen 6 and Gen 5 especially, Gen 6 and CO era, when they're coming off of turn 2 and you lose the sound,
Mm-hmm.
now you can stand in the infield at any given point, and you're counting first gear, second gear, third gear, fourth gear. Oh, hey, there's fifth gear.
Uh-huh.
And you hear it clearly. That's the way it's supposed to be. They're supposed to be loud.
Yeah. I mean, again, there's a lot to like about the Gen 7 car. There's a lot to dislike about the Gen 7 car. This is a car that they've really only been working on for not even really 2 years now, in seriousness. I mean, obviously it's been on the drawing boards for a while, but we're talking about getting it out on the track in test form and trying everything out. Really, it's a little less than 2 years, all things being equal. They've done a lot of things right. The sound of it's good. I like the fact that they got a 5-speed transmission. It doesn't bother me at all.
That bothers me not the least little bit.
Weird to see them shifting at some of the short tracks that they're shifting at, but I get it. Okay? But there's still things that they got to work on. The speed situation's one of them.
Big time.
I tend to disagree. There are public service announcements out there that the federal government wants to put out there talking about speed kills. No, stupidity does.
Bingo.
It's kind of like using the phrase gun violence. I hate the phrase gun violence. If you own a firearm, but you set it over in the corner, or you put it in its case, or you put it in its safe, that gun isn't going to jump up and do something all by itself. It takes a person to aim and pull the trigger to kill another person.
Thank you.
Stop calling it gun violence and let's call it what it is. Some jerk killing another person.
For no reason.
Sometimes. I mean, I did news reports all week at my other job. Talked about 3 different shootings in the state of Alabama over the past week alone. And one of them had to do with some dummy pulling up in an intersection in Birmingham beside another car and just flat opening fire like it was Chicago in the mob days during Prohibition.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because you had a disagreement and you couldn't figure out another way to solve it other than pulling out a weapon? You're an idiot. Okay? Same situation when it comes to this. Let's call this what it is. There's some good. There's some bad.
Yep.
Take it for what it is. Let's not just dump the baby out with the bathwater and say, well, here's the bad stuff that I'm going to concentrate on, therefore it's junk. Watching the NFL draft over the past couple of nights and then go onto social media and look up your favorite team. We've made no bones about the fact that Matt Nicholson and I are New England Patriots fans. Bill Belichick traded down from 21 to 29 in the first round, picked up another couple of mid-round draft picks, and then chose a tackle out of Tennessee, Chattanooga. And everyone went, who?
UTC, baby.
Yeah. First time UTC has ever had a player of theirs go in the first round in the history of the school, in the history of the NFL draft. And everyone's going, oh, it's another big bust. Dude, you haven't seen the man play. You don't know that it's a bust. I don't know that it's not, but you know what? I'm going to give the kid a shot. So do me a favor, quit armchair quarterbacking, quit armchair GMing and stating, oh, it's automatically a bust. You don't know that because the next NFL draft pick that you make will be your first. And I say that because I look in the mirror and I know that the next NFL draft pick I make will be my first. The first time or the next time I get into a NASCAR Cup Series car and try and drive it at 200 miles per hour will be my first. Period. Let's see what these people do over the course of time to try and get these things done. Let them prove themselves. Are there problems? Yes. Can they be fixed? We honestly think so. That's what Mercedes thinks when it comes to Lewis Hamilton. They think they can get the car fixed.
Now, Sunday, Dr. Eric Jacuzzi. That was his name. Eric Jacuzzi.
Wonder if that's a trademark last name.
I don't know. He came down. He did a short interview with us on the broadcast here on the flagship that I helped with Grady and Robert Grantham with right there. I told Grady, I said, because there was two people there at one time, and I told Grady, I said, I got an interesting question for him. I said, get him with it.
Okay.
I said, all right, what you got? I said, I'm interested to see how long that they took the infant stages of development between the series and the OEMs and how long it took. How long they worked on the development with Toyota, Chevrolet, and Ford.
I can see that.
You know when he said they started developing this car? 2018.
Been working on it for a while.
2018. And some aspects of it, 18, 19, 20, 21, 4 months into 2022. So 3 years and 4 months.
But the most we ever saw up till late last year, the most we ever saw on the track at any one time was 2 cars.
Right.
2 cars on the track at one time versus 39 at Talladega on Sunday. Vastly different world. You find out a whole lot more when you put these things in actual race trim than what you do when you're trying to go out there and practice them.
Now, I know your other cohort that has half of a brain that was working with you up top.
Don't get me started.
That couldn't observe this. And I'm sure if you may have caught this like I did, but did you see how these Gen 7 cars, it turned into an ARCA style race?
Sure.
They went from the top to the bottom.
Oh, yeah.
The top lane never came in.
It really never did, no.
Everybody stayed on the bottom, followed the
Or
leader
the middle.
Follow the leader on the bottom. You'd have a middle lane form up.
Yep.
But Eric Jones played this perfect. In my opinion, he played the race perfect. If you're going to beat me on the outside.
Yeah, except he took the bait and went up to block.
If he had stayed,
that was his mistake.
If he had stayed pinned on the bottom, like he went back and said, I should have stayed on the bottom.
Ross Chastain would have pushed him, and he probably would have gotten the win.
43 car goes back to victory lane, boys.
Yeah.
No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
And I think it would have been a very now. Granted, Watermelon Man smashing a watermelon right near start finish lane, very very popular win. Don't get me wrong, but to see the 43 back in victory lane at Talladega, very very popular win.
I think it would have been just as loud.
Absolutely, very very popular win.
Yep.
Dover, any thoughts?
Now that the full practice results just flashed up. Well, considering that the fastest SHR car is Ryan Preece in a Rick Ware car, long run speed, I mean, he's sitting there lurking, man. Kurt Busch is about to break out.
Yeah.
He's lurking.
I've been thinking that for a while.
close.
I actually chose him last week at Talladega. Basically, I'm going to ride that horse until it bucks. Because I think you're right. I think as much as 2311 Racing has been maligned for the whole Bubba Wallace thing, and we could spend hours on that, Kurt Busch is a damn fine racer. And I honestly believe he's going to find himself in victory lane sooner rather than later. It wouldn't surprise me if he found himself in victory lane. Not at all.
Considering this, and I know we're getting ready to wrap up, but on Bingo Card Saturday,
Okay.
did we have both Kaulig cars in the top 3? Both.
Not overly surprising, no.
Both Kaulig cars. A Rick Ware car in 6th.
That's shocking. Yeah, I don't care who it is and what their partnership is. Just to say Rick Ware is in the top 10 is like...
And you have a Rick Ware car outperforming a Wood Brothers car, 2 SHR cars, and a Petty GMS car.
Wow.
Let's go play the lottery if you did, boys.
Yep, because I don't think you got it.
No.
So tomorrow, I'm going to be flipping channels between Dover and Barber. I'm looking forward to it.
Same here.
Enjoy the racing. We'll be back next week to talk about a whole lot more stuff right here on the Championship Racing Network and the After the Show. And just as a real quick reminder to NASCAR, when it comes to certain things, I get it. The car sometimes needs to change, but don't fix something that's not broken. Huh? Please?
And on that note,
Bye-bye.
This has been a presentation of the Championship Racing Network.